Okay, so I'm going to be doing a speech with myself here, although there are more than enough people here for me to give the speech with. I've chosen to do this way because it's not something that I really care to talk about very often. I will be doing my refutation speech on reformed individuals, also known as ex-convicts, former prisoners, if you will. What comes to your mind when you hear the label ex-convict? You probably think of uneducated, gangster, murderer, rapist, burglar, the crazy things you hear on the news. Most people think that people that have been somewhere like that are just downright scary, not someone that they'd want to be around their children. Well, this world has created this stigma for people like that, and with that being said, they've made it very hard for people like that to get a job. And the truth is that the people that have been to places like this is actually very vast. This is what people usually label. This is what you think of when you think of prisoner, right? So what does this have to do with you? Well, you go to church, you go to the grocery store, you go to school, you go to all these places, and that there's always going to be someone that has been to something like that around you, whether or not you think about it or not. It's very important that you possibly take into your mind that kindness is the key here, and that you shouldn't just pass that on to your children to be hateful and ugly. My thesis would be, it's going to bring up many concerns with ex-convicts or prisoners, reformed persons, if you will. However, these common concerns should not cloud or prevent you from giving certain reformed persons a opportunity or a chance. Today I'd like to take a look at a few of these concerns that I've had. I've got them split into two categories: potential problems for convicts and potential concerns with the public about ex-convicts and for reformed persons. Okay, the potential problems for people that have been to prison. One concern, a major part of the stereotype, as I mentioned earlier, is that prisoners are scary and uneducated. That's absolutely not true. I'm sure some of them are, but not all of them are. Benjamin Weiser of the New York Times said that he thought that drugs often came from organized crime sources, although he added that he worked through an intermediary wanting no association with the mob, referring to Alan P. Harbor, a former heroin dealer that turned into a reputable defense lawyer there in New York City. He was a lawyer for 30 years before they had even he had a private practice before they had ever even known that he had been to prison for selling heroin when he was young and, in his own words, stupid. Okay, my second site is going to be, it's called Koch Gives Job-Seeking Ex-Convicts a Break. It's Frederica Schutten of the USA Today. She explains that Ban the Box movement urges employers to wait until prospective employees are being interviewed or have tentative job offers before asking about their criminal histories. Proponents say that it will give ex-felons and others with criminal record a better shot at an employment if they are not rejected at the very start of the hiring process. Very true. Because I could just imagine being like that and trying to go get a job and having all the qualifications that are necessary, being friendly, whatnot, and then you're waiting to get the job, and then all of a sudden you get a letter in the mail that says, "I'm sorry, ma'am, due to you doing something over 10 years ago almost, we can't hire you." As a matter of fact, it just so happens that people have been exposed to the prison life. They're not only just people like me or you or anyone you see at the grocery store. They're actually, I would say, not say slightly evolved, but they've seen a side of the world that, some people have no idea about. And hopefully that no one else will be exposed to that. A second concern for convicts is that they may not be accepted by the general public. Today, the prison system is a very busy place, and it's growing all the time. It's like one of the biggest money-making facilities, especially here in Texas. There's so many people in prison. Here we have, this is the actual Riverside unit. It's in Gatesville, Texas. In Site 3. In 2011, the article by Joan Petersilla in the Wilson Quarterly stated, "More important, that decline may well be reversed if we don't do a better job of planning for the re-entry of prisoners who have finished their sentences. There is a very simple and immutable iron law of imprisonment. Almost everyone who gets to prison ultimately returns home. About 93% of all offenders. A relative handful die in jail. The rest of life sentences are on death row. Although the average offender now spends 2.5 years behind bars, many terms are shorter, with the result that 44% of now all housed in the state prisons are expected to be released within the year. This year, some 750,000 men and women will go home. Many, if not, will be no better equipped to make successful, law-abiding lives for themselves than they were before they landed in prison. Here I have a graph of the Texas prison population and how it has grown and declined. We're actually in a lower set this year than we have in the past 4 years. Okay, my point is that it's really hard for some of you to relinquish your jaded view on people who have been to such a horrifying place as prison, but I can assure you that there are doctors, lawyers, and many other functional people in your community that have definitely been there, and they made a silly mistake in their life guaranteed when they were younger, and then they took that and learned it and switched around for the best. My site for is Elise Cause wrote in the Newsweek 2006, Western is happy, re-entry is coming into its own, but thinks something grander is needed. He is no doubt correct, but there is notion nonetheless represents real progress, a noteworthy advance in the thinking of political leaders who deluded themselves for so long into believing it was cheaper to lock people up than to help them stay out of trouble. My second potential roadblock is for people with thoughts of criminals. One reason that they're so apprehensive of people from prison is because that they think that they're all bad and they're not going to do anything. Cecilia Velasquez of Corrections Today state, crime, substance, mental abuse, mental health disorders, HIV and other infections, homelessness, educational and vocational deficiencies, trauma, abuse, and other problems are intricately connected and a place of tremendous strain on all the community systems. Without complete and successful re-entry services, with comprehensive after services and community linkage, the nexus of crime and these other problems can be an immediate threat to an individual, his or her family, significant others, and community. I can relate with both sides of the spectrum. You cannot go without giving a human being a chance in order to prove their worth, okay? There are, of course, bad apples, and they will continue to lead a life of crime, but there are also those people who take something horrifying like this and they turn it into something wonderful. Final concept, that people think these people are monsters. They're not monsters. I mean, some of them are monsters, but I'm sure, but not all of them. The truth is that, like every situation, there's people from every stereotype that actually fit the mold. Our children and families are something that we all take very seriously, and we should be considering what it is that we love, and we should protect it. But we can never know what kind of light lies within someone until we actually get to know them. And by judging someone because of their stigma, I mean, I just don't think that that's fair. Site 6, Art Beeler wrote once, if you're not able to be a mentor, serve on a board of directors or an advisory board of a faith community-based organization. None of us who work in corrections are naive about motivation and success of many people who have been released. It is not about a do-gooder, but a matter of public safety and fiscal responsibility. And I am reminded of what Anthony Thompson contends in his recently published releasing, Prisoners Redeeming Communities. Individuals who have been arrested and incarcerated have become the pariahs who continue to be denied many of the fundamental rights of citizenship despite having paid their debt to society. Seemingly, no consequence is too harsh for consideration as an obstacle to re-entry. It's pretty crazy. In other words, I mean, they're really looking at the spectrum. They're not discrediting people that have been to prison for not doing good in the world, which of course have. There are many possible concerns with reintegrating people into society around ourselves and our children that have been to prison, of course. When in all reality, those people are no different than everyone else, other than they made a stupid mistake and or they got caught for something that you as yourself probably did, like drinking and driving. I mean, I'm not saying everyone out there's drank and driven, but at any opportune moment, even if you had 2 beers, you could have accidentally slid off the road and hit some old lady in 10 years. There you go. Anyways, some of them have made really terrible decisions at a young age and it will haunt them for the rest of their lives. I think it would be safe to say that vast majority of time people have no idea exactly how many members of their community have actually been to prison. Parting shot, if you haven't already figured it out, I am here to tell you I'm a convicted felon 5 times. When I was 17, I was convicted of arson. That's crazy. 17, I'm 25 now, so that was 8 years ago, right about. I served right around 2 years at the Riverside Unit in Texas Department of Criminal Justice. I am far from uneducated. As a matter of fact, I have dedicated my life to helping others in the same situation that I was in. I was a very lost teenager that made some really, really poor decisions. And I am glad that I went to such a horrifying place because I was able to see what it is on both sides. Looking at me, I really personally don't think that no one can really tell that I've been somewhere like that, but you never know. However, I thank God because I went there. Not only did I go there, it gave me a true purpose in life. I got my life together, I had a child, and now I'm good. And so you can never say the grass is always greener on the other side. I don't know if you can see that. That's me. That's me with a rainbow wall in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice when I was 17 years old. And I hope that this can open you guys' eyes to see that we're not all bad. We're not. And I will spend the rest of my life trying to help people that were just like me. Thank you.